So we're back with another episode, and we're just continuing the conversation we've been having the last couple of weeks. Discussing, of course, last year our theme was CT40. We talked about Jesus spending 40 days in the wilderness, and we talked about the temptations that Jesus faced when he had come out of the wilderness.
Right.
And we talked about the temptation of relevance in episode 1, and just that pressure that we feel to prove ourselves. And then in episode 2, we talked about the temptation to be spectacular and to do and be spectacular things, and just that craving that we have to be admired.
Yeah, to be looked up to.
Exactly.
To be thought that we're something special, which we are special. Yeah. We're all special in
our
our own way,
we're God's
right?
special creation.
But to be chasing that can be a real temptation for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then with this one, again, it's kind of that irony of, with relevance and spectacular. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the temptation of being powerful or having influence. And we're doing a podcast.
Which, I don't know how much influence this affords us, but you definitely see that in the world a lot, right? Because what it equates to, and we're going to dive deeper into this, but it's the temptation to be in control. Of your life, what's going on around you. It's an illusion, right? It doesn't matter how powerful you are, how much money you have, how much influence, whatever the thing is, there is still not an ironclad grasp on our circumstances. We just don't have that.
Exactly.
And so how do you balance that with knowing that God is in control? What does that mean for our lives?
Yeah, and so that's what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to get more into it, but Brent, I'm going to ask you if you'll just go ahead and read our story again in Matthew chapter 4.
Yeah. Let me get there real quick. I skipped ahead. I was reading ahead for homework.
Yeah.
All right, so 4. So let's read Matthew 4. I think I'll just start in verse 1 and read it through verse 11. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, then tell these stones to become bread." And Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." And then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "It is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." And then we'll get into kind of what we're going to talk about today. Again, the devil took him up to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. "All this I will give you," he said, "if you will bow down and worship me." And Jesus said to him, "Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." And then the devil left him, and the angels came and attended to him.
This is just kind of a rabbit I'm going to chase real quick. How awesome would that have been to just be on top of the mountain and seeing everything? Now, of course, obviously for Jesus, was there when creation happened.
Right. He's seen it before.
But I'm just like, man, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just Satan's there offering Jesus everything. He's offering Jesus a way to have that power and authority and that influence in the world that has been broken. And it's kind of ironic. It's what he came to do, is to restore order.
Yeah. I wonder how much of a temptation this was for Jesus. Like, was the temptation, I could make everything right now, take the easy path? Would the temptation be, I don't have to go through the rest of this life, which is not going to be very pleasant? I'm sure all these things play into how Jesus himself as a person would have been tempted. I think it's quite a bit different, but yet similar for us, because we're not the Christ, we're not the Messiah come to earth, right? But that temptation is still there to gain influence or control either to make things better by our standards, right? I want to make it more the way I think it should be. Or is it to, hey, just have all the stuff, have all the distractions from the pain of the world, buffer myself from the suffering.
Yeah.
Which is what money and power and influence and all that's the temptation of
that's what people want to
achieving
do.
those things. Yeah, that's what you're trying to do.
Well, I mean, I even think about so when I first started here at Westside, obviously first full-time ministry job, and it's our first big trip where we went to Branson for Young Christians Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really funny being on that trip because I had everything planned to the minute. We were going to arrive at the cabin at 9:37 p.m. Kids were going to be ready for bed at 10:33. All of it, down to the minute. So the next morning, so that Saturday morning, we were going to Silver Dollar City. And the plan I made was, okay, me, Tracy, and Jada, we're going to go on ahead and go ahead and get the tickets. That way, when the kids get there, they can just go straight into the park. Don't have to wait on us. And so we went ahead and I told the adults who were still at the cabin, hey, y'all need to leave here at 8:40 so that y'all can get to the park at 9 when it opens. Or 10, I can't remember which time it was. But I was like, okay, y'all need to be there at this time so that the kids have more time in the park. So it was about 9:15. I was like, okay, they're a little late. 9:30 rolls around, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Did the bus break down? Well, and so I'm texting one of the adults that was there. It's like, oh, well, this kid forgot their wallet. I forgot my purse. Yada, 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 yada. They didn't show up till 10 o'clock, an hour after I'd said what time to be there. So I'm furious at this point. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, I get I'm young, but, like, come on.
So are you one of these people that it just really bothers you to be late to stuff?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm kind of that way, too. I know some people are very relaxed about deadlines or when you're supposed to show up or whatever, and it just kind of drives me crazy because that's another one of those things that you can, like, control.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
I can get there on time, and I want other people to think that I'm responsible or I'm in control of what's going on.
Oh, yeah. Well, so this story gets even better.
Okay.
So I tried to be flexible in this next part of the story, too. That's what's so, like, I tried my best. So we went to the Branson Landing that night for dinner, and the plan was, hey, I don't remember what time we got there, but I was like, hey, you're going to have all this time. Y'all go eat, shop, do whatever you want. But we're going to meet at the fountain at 8 to take a group picture, and then we're immediately getting on the bus and going back to the cabin. 3 of the girls followed this plan beautifully. But they came to me and said, Solomon, we really wanted to go to Build-A-Bear. And we didn't get to because the restaurant we went to kept messing up our order, and we spent the whole time at the restaurant. We didn't get to shop. And that just pricked my heart, Brent. Like when I was a little kid going through all the facial reconstruction surgeries and stuff like that, my parents would take me to Build-A-Bear every time as a reward for doing well in surgery. And so that pricked my heart. And I was like, okay, we'll take the picture. I'll send the rest of the group back to the cabin. I'll take me, Jada, and Tracy. We'll take the 3 of y'all to Build-A-Bear, and then we'll go back to the cabin. So we do that. And I tell the rest of the adults, all right, so here's the plan. Get the kids back in the bus. Y'all go ahead and head back. We'll meet you there. I shouldn't have said that, truthfully. Looking back, I'm like, Solomon, that was a terrible idea. Or at least the planning, Solomon says that. So we probably spent 30, 45 minutes in Build-A-Bear. Why I thought we would be in there 15 minutes or less, I don't know. But it was probably 30, 45 minutes. And I come out, and we're walking back, and I was like, okay, yeah, Solomon, good job. You were flexible, made a memory with 3 of your students, won some brownie points with your girlfriend because it's a really sweet picture. She was walking behind us, and they're holding their little Build-A-Bear, and we're all walking back to the bus. I was like, yes, my girlfriend thinks I'm sweet. So I'm like on top of the world. And then I'm looking around, I'm like, what's Sam Davis still doing here? What's he eating? Why are y'all here? And turns out that all the students were still shopping. They had not gotten back on the bus at all. And I'm just like, I thought I was clear. I thought I had this perfect plan laid out. I tried to be flexible, and that's just not what happened at all.
Yeah. And
I was so focused on having control over everything. And luckily, I had some adults who were smarter than I was and realized that was the memory the students needed to make.
Mm-hmm.
And my control could have put a stop to that.
Right.
So that was my first lesson in Solomon. You're not in control.
Yeah. I've always thought it's a good way to go about planning things like that. Whatever the thing is that you're involved in, have a good plan.
Mm-hmm.
Have a plan. So I don't think it's a bad thing to like you were saying, you kind of had your agenda planned out from the beginning. You did your homework. You figured out how long it should take to drive from the cabin to Silver Dollar City and all those things, right? So you were prepared. But then when you're in the moment, when you're, let's say this is a ministry thing. So whether you're on a mission trip or whether you're helping in worship at church or you're helping in your youth group or whatever the thing is, you've got the plan, but then once you're in it, you've got to be open to God's changing your plans, right? You've got to be open to situations changing, circumstances changing. When you're dealing with people, which we always are, it's just not going to go exactly the way you think it is.
No,
ever,
it's not.
Right? But that can be a hard thing to let go of for sure.
And it's this idea of we have to learn that our lives as Christians, it's not about our control.
Yeah.
And it's about compassion. And sometimes having compassion requires flexibility. Because people are not going to do things or say things or be places where you want them to be, where it's going to be convenient for you. And I mean, Jesus had more authority than anyone.
Right.
And he's over and over again having to tell the disciples, hey, this is what we need to do. But what's more important than getting to this place at this time is I'm going to stop and heal this woman. I'm going to, because of my compassion, I'm going to stop my plan.
Yep.
And
we're going to be flexible.
We're going to be flexible here. Exactly. And Peter was probably the one who was most against that.
Right. Yeah, that can be hard, even as somebody who's not necessarily in charge, even as a follower. So I could see those students that were on the trip with you saying, okay, well, he's got a plan for what we should do, but then he's going to change it. He's going to be flexible with his own plans. Okay, well, then I can be flexible. I can do what I want to do then. So even if you're a follower, that can be a temptation to run your own show. Do what I want to do and not really worry about how it affects other people.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially, it's a huge problem for me. Like, we're talking about this, and I'm talking to myself.
You're the worst, the world's worst at that.
Get this. So I told Jada when we were talking about it, I was like, hey, what's a good story I could tell about control or influence or power or whatever? And she starts going, well, I mean, just about any interaction.
She listed about 20 stories.
Oh, it was bad. Like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, stop, please.
That's enough. I just needed one
story.
Needed
one. We can't go through all of those. We don't have enough time. But, Peter, throughout his life, you read Matthew 16, and Jesus tells the disciples, hey, I am going to die, and I'm going to be resurrected, but this is happening. And Peter's like, whoa, Jesus. Let's cool it a little bit. That's not going to happen. That's not necessary.
Right.
I know better, Jesus. Just trust me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this weird and funny. But reading it, it's funny, and we're like, Peter, what were you thinking?
Right. Yeah. Let me just read that, and so it's in case anybody wants to read through it more deeply. But it's Matthew 16 verses. I'm going to read 21 to 23. So from that time on, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things at the hands of the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. So just like what you're saying, Solomon. Never, Lord, he said, this shall never happen to you. Jesus turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me. You do not have in mind the concerns of God, but merely human concerns. So the interesting thing about this to me is that Peter thinks he knows better what the plan is than God in the flesh. Thinks he can see better what the overall plan for the Messiah is than the Messiah himself. Which, looking, like you're saying earlier, like looking back on that and reading it, we're thinking, well, that's an idiotic stance, right? But we do that all the time, right? We think we have a better idea of how things should go than God does, the creator of the universe. And that bears itself out in our lives over and over and over again. Yet we can look at somebody else and say, well, why would you think that, Peter? That's such a dumb thing to say to Jesus. Well, we say the same thing to Jesus all the time.
Oh, yeah. We do it in school. We do it with, church. We try to say, hey, this is how we're supposed to do things. This is what it's supposed to look like. And then it's laughable sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to look at Peter and look at other situations and go, oh, well, why would you think that? And then you look at ourselves and we're like, oh, well, obviously I knew what I was talking about. And no, you don't.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you can even look back on your own life with the benefit of hindsight and think, what an idiot I was back then, right? Why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why? But then we continue to make those same mistakes over and over. That's part of being a human. But the challenge is, the thing that we can learn from that temptation from Jesus is learning more and more that I'm not in control, and that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing, not a thing to be afraid of. I think that's the main crux of it, is that we think if we're not in control, then things are out of control. And that's not true. It's just not us who's the ones in control.
Exactly. And then you just think more about Peter's story as you keep going on. Later in John 18, I think it is, they're in the garden, and it's one of those moments where, in Peter's mind of control, if I'm in control of this situation, this wouldn't be happening. But the Pharisees, religious leaders, Judas, they all come into the garden to arrest Jesus. And Peter, and his wisdom and splendor, and
he did have fervor, though.
He did have fervor. That is true. He was very bold.
Yep.
And he was left-handed. We established that last episode.
That's right.
Pulls out his sword with his left hand and cuts off the dude's ear. And he was trying to take back control, and how he knew how to. He went back to his, okay, I know this control works. And Jesus, put your sword away. I've got this. I'm still in control. And you go on and get into John 21. And it's that same struggle again and again and again with Peter and with us. Peter's struggling with control. And after Jesus says to him, Peter, I want you to feed my sheep. If you love me, feed my sheep.
Right.
And Peter looks at John and goes, what about him? What's he going to do? You're asking me to feed sheep. What's John going to do? And Jesus replies, what does that matter to you? Why does that matter? I have given you your task. What's going to happen to him will happen to him. But I am in control. And I just need you to trust me. And just moving Peter from power to surrender, from compassion, or from comparison to calling. Because we get caught in that comparison trap.
Yeah, of
all
either
the time.
comparing our situation and how worse off it is or how much more we've been asked to do than somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
or propping ourselves up on a pedestal and comparing my ability or my, whatever the thing is that we're proud of that we think that we've really accomplished,
Mm-hmm.
comparing it to somebody else, right? Or comparing our sins.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm a sinner, but at least I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
It just kind of reminds me of that, this idea of like main character syndrome that people walk around with. Do you ever feel that? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like people who think that the world is their
Yes.
stage and they're walking through it and everybody is watching them and they're the
Mhm.
they're the main character in this whole play, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what we need to understand is we all feel that because we all have an ego. We
Mhm.
all are in a way, the center of our own universe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's human nature, but we're a part of a much bigger plan,
Mm-hmm.
And what happens or doesn't happen, what we accomplish or do not accomplish is not as big a deal as sometimes we think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Positive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just is not moving the needle as much as we think it is. And again, that's not a negative thing. That's the thing I think we get messed up on sometimes is thinking, I'm not saying that our actions don't have any consequences or are inconsequential at all, but when we mess up, let's not beat ourselves up too badly.
Mm-hmm.
When we have a success, let's not give ourselves all the credit for everything that happened, right? It's more of a temperance and kind of staying in that middle ground of understanding that we are an important part of the story, but we're not the only part.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not in control. We didn't write the story for sure. The
we
author of the story is in control. He is the creator of the whole universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just really, especially with social media, is just even a bigger part of it, of like that main character syndrome is just perpetuated even more because now cameras are on us too.
Right.
And on the flip side of that, we spend so much time comparing. I think I said this last week or 2 weeks ago. We spend so much time comparing our blooper reels, the times where we messed up, to other people's highlight reels, to where their persona that they're trying to put out into the world and on social media. And it just leaves us feeling broken.
Yeah.
And even more broken than we already are.
Right.
Because that's the reality, is we are broken. And I think if we truly had control, I don't think any one of us would have chosen the brokenness that we are dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, praise God that the cross happened, right?
Right.
Because, tying this back to the temptation that Jesus received from Satan, where Satan was offering him everything, offering him all the power and control, and the ability to restore order.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus understood that was not the authentic route. That was not going to bring true power and influence and control.
Yeah. So, and his influence would have been temporary,
exactly,
as opposed to eternal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way of putting that. I haven't really thought about that before, but it's that's a good point that you make. That is the temptation to make things right with a Band-Aid solution,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I can make it right in the moment, but the long-term consequences are way worse.
Yeah, and the whole point is, in that moment, he rejects power without pain, and he rejects influence without love, and rejects leadership without the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could have restored order in that moment, like you're saying, but we still would have been destined for hell.
Right.
Because if that happened, death would not have been defeated, sin would not have been defeated. If the cross didn't happen, the resurrection doesn't happen.
Right.
And it's just Philippians 2 kind of talks about this, where it says that Jesus did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was at the right hand of God. He was there. He's 100% man and 100% God. He has that authority, but he understood he needed to come down and he needed to go to the cross. And Henry Nouwen's book that we've been talking about a lot, Henry Nouwen was very much a downward mobility advocate. And because in the kingdom, influence comes through obedience, not domination or control or
Right.
power. And that's a hard thing for us to grasp because we're taught in school and looking throughout human history, the way to gain power is through control. The way to gain control is through domination and asserting yourself. And especially as men have struggled with that for a long time. And I think it's skewed the view of, okay, what does it look like to be a biblical man? And for our ladies, it's the same deal. Everything is just so skewed when we try to take control and we try to take power. Because, I mean, the whole crux of all of this is Jesus is the one in control. And what's influence without love?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a fun conversation. It's a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Because we want to be in control.
Yeah, and especially as you're, so if some of our listeners are in that high school age range, and I've talked to my own kids about this several times, but high school for a lot of students is about posturing for position in the pecking order socially, right? So you're trying to decide how much charisma you have. You're trying to see how much domination you can have over somebody else. So they could be bullying or they could be making fun of somebody, or I'm going to be part of this group that can put down this other group. There's lots of ways that plays itself out. But those years are just kind of a self-perpetuating problem because you learn, unless you really have the mind of Christ and you have somebody in your life telling you that's not what it's all about, you learn through, getting that feedback that making fun of somebody does get a laugh.
Yeah.
Right? Being part of that clique that's mean, being in the Mean Girls group does get you acceptance among that group, right? So you kind of get these little hits of what feels good at the time, but it's short-lived. And one of the things that I've encouraged my own kids and a lot of other kids as they're kind of going through that stage, because it is difficult. It's difficult to navigate all that, is that a lot of that, for most people, there are still some people who hold on to that well into adulthood. But for most people, that starts to fall away out of high school age. You kind of figure out who you are and hopefully understand your identity in Christ, and knowing that, who you can make fun of or who your girlfriend is or how good you are at sports. You kind of start to realize that really doesn't matter much.
Wait. So you're hang on now. I was very good at basketball in high school.
Right.
That doesn't affect how good I am.
It doesn't make you
right
a better
now.
person.
Okay. Dang.
Reminds me of that Uncle Rico character in Napoleon Dynamite, right? You think of that person who's still stuck in that mindset, and it's sad, right? It's you look at that guy and you're like, what a loser. But everybody is that guy when they're a high school student, right? It's natural to be that when you're young, but as you get older, let's grow out of that, right? But my encouragement to the students is that gets better, because that can be legitimately, you can't look on it and it's funny to think about somebody acting like that, but it's reality in high school. It really is difficult to navigate, and it can be very damaging. But just understanding that your identity doesn't come from what other people think about you. It doesn't come from what you look like or how tall you are or how pretty you are or how well you sing, any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
They don't define your value. The one who created you defines that. And, like you were saying, he's the one that went to the cross for you
Mm-hmm.
and made it right. Made that relationship so that you could have a relationship with him through his spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's really a good spot to kind of transition of, just kind of what we've been talking about the last few weeks. And we're going to talk more about this next week. But, just something we need to acknowledge, because in order to combat this, we do need to acknowledge that temptation is real.
Mm-hmm.
The temptation of having control, of power, of influence. It is a real temptation. But Jesus, in this story that we're talking about, he showed us a better way of letting go and understanding, like, hey, this may not be what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I know this is what is best. And Peter had to learn the same lesson of learning that following Jesus isn't about comparison and control, and that, I had to learn this lesson with that Branson trip. You don't have to hold everything all together.
Right.
Everything doesn't have to go perfectly according to your plan. You just need to follow God's plan faithfully, because his plan is going to fulfill itself, right? Because, Jesus didn't lead with a clenched fish,
Or clenched fish, either one, really.
or either one. He did clench the fish to
That's true.
multiply them, I guess, but he didn't lead with an iron fist, right?
Yeah.
He led with open hands, and obviously those open hands had nails driven through them, and it wasn't about control in that moment, but it was about freedom and letting go of control. So with that, thank y'all for joining us for this conversation. And next week, we're going to talk more about what authentic Christianity looks like, and what true relevance and true spectacular and true power, what does that look like? Because when we follow Christ, we do experience those things.
That's right, yeah. But as defined by the one who authored it, not defined by us.
Exactly. So, as you're going into this next week, our encouragement to you is to lead like Jesus, not with an iron fist, but with open hands, not by grasping for power, but by laying down our lives for love.
Yeah, loving others.
Exactly. So, in entrance of that, of loving others, you are loved by me. You are loved by Brent. You are loved by all of Christ's saints. And before anything else is true about you, you're loved by God.
Amen.
See you next week.